Welcome back to Patient Win Insider. I'm Nick Moen, and today I'm joined by Joe Slade, National Sales Specialist at Patterson Dental. Joe has spent his career helping DSOs scale smarter, moving the industry beyond just selling widgets into real solutions that create growth. Today, we'll dive into how DSOs are adapting, where innovation is happening, and what the future of dentistry looks like. So thanks for hopping on, Joe.
Thanks, Nick. Happy to be here.
Cool. Well, I kind of want to start off with a little bit about your background and leading into how did that lead into DSO University?
Yeah, so I mean, you can say when I was going to school, I didn't really anticipate that I was going to fall in the dental sector. Went to school for business law and recruited right out of school to work at a company called ADP, Advanced Data Processing. And I mean, I was there for a couple of years, and I got recruited over to Dentsply. At the time, it was Dentsply, and 2 months in, it became Dentsply Sirona with the merger, and I was there for about 8 years. I mean, that evolved into meeting a ton of cool people, being at DSO University, seeing kind of where the growth that, was coming when it comes to practices growing with private equity coming in and acquiring practices and DSOs, expanding their reach. And at DSO University, our main focus was to help provide clinicians with the opportunity to provide same-store growth by learning new technologies, procedures, protocols to be able to go back into their practice that following Monday and be able to perform anything from implants to endodontics to oral surgery to orthodontics, you name it. And, was there for a couple of years. And then I decided to get back on the distribution side of the business, being Patterson Dental. And, I've been here ever since and loving it.
How long have you been with Patterson then?
So I started with Patterson back in February of this year of 2025.
Cool. And so through your time with DSO University and talking about, you mentioned, starting off kind of selling widgets, right? Or selling, what does that mean? And like, how did that turn and how did your viewpoint change into selling solutions, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in dentistry, we fall into this trap, especially when I was coming from the manufacturing side of the business, where I thought at the time everybody needed what I was selling. I couldn't have been further from the truth. I was selling what obviously corporate wanted me to sell. Obviously, they're paying my bills and I have stuff to do, but ultimately, I realized at DSO University that it's not the product that I'm selling, it's the solution that I'm solving, or it's the problem that I'm solving with my solution. And I had to get out of this framework of just understanding that a product is a product. But if the doctor or the clinician or the team doesn't know how to utilize that product, then you're not helping them at all. It's just going to sit there on the shelf and it's going to collect dust and no one's going to get any better. You're not going to improve patient care. You're not going to improve efficiencies and workflows within the practice. Clinicians and the staff are going to get frustrated. And I had to do really a mental shift and sell solutions. And truly part of selling solutions is truly understanding what is it that the DSO is looking for, because not every DSO is created equal. They all have different goals, aspirations, how big they want to grow, if they want to grow at all, what are they looking when it comes to the associates that they're bringing into their practices. And it's truly, my job here at Patterson now is identifying what is it that can allow me to be a trusted partner to these DSOs, to these multi-location practice groups, and provide them with the ultimate solutions that they need in order for them to become successful. And that success could be entirely up to them. They have their own definition of what success means to them, but it's my job to provide them with the solution to provide and get to successful.
Okay. What do you see? I mean, I guess in your experience here, like what have you seen success defined as overall? I mean, obviously there's a lot of ways to measure that, but give me some examples.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately when you look at it, same store growth is successful, right? We went through this weird time of our dental life where all this private equity money came in and all these DSOs were essentially starting what seemed like overnight, and they're all acquiring practices, and they're acquiring practices for very high multiples. And, they're just acquiring. Well, at the end of the day, you can acquire so much. And now we're at a kind of like the precipice of our journey here, where these private equity firms, they want to see, okay, we've invested all this money, we have all these assets. Now what? What are we like? How are we going to grow? And success is you ask me, what is success? What does success look like? It's making sure that all of your practice have that same store growth, that they're growing 5, 8, 10% year over year, and adding new patients, incorporating new technologies, making systems more efficient. And we're all about finding efficiencies. I don't think there's anything where, I think you could probably agree with me, where we're busier than ever in our day-to-day lives. And the doctors and the clinicians and the clinical staff, they're no different. So if they're busier, if they're seeing more patients by the minute, how are we going to make them more efficient to make sure that they're turning these operatories over to continue to see all the patients that are coming through their doors? So that's ultimately what I love doing here at Patterson, is finding ways to make these offices more efficient. And by finding their efficiencies and making them more efficient, I'm able to make them more successful by incorporating, again, new products, technologies, procedures to allow them to find success.
And what framework do you use to find the inefficiencies? How are you digging into these strategic partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think ultimately it's, there's a myriad of different ways that we can go to kind of find the inefficiencies, if you will. But I think for me personally, what I'm looking at is it's truly understanding what is it that the C-suite, what is it that they're looking for? How are they looking to grow? Because if I can understand that, I could recommend an AI solution that essentially offers a second opinion, chairside, that puts the patient at ease, or essentially reinforces what the clinician is telling the patient, because they can show a specific picture. They can show the stoplight, if you will, right? The red, the yellow, the green. They can show and have a different conversation to where it's personable with that patient, to where the patient understands, okay, I need this cavity filled, or okay, I may need a dental implant, or okay, my gums are receding. And when you're able to incorporate certain things like that and have a different conversation, that's ultimately going to provide more opportunity for your practice to grow based upon the procedure that you're going to have to incorporate and do on that patient.
Sure. Tell me more about some of these AI solutions. I mean, I think obviously there's a lot coming to market right now, but I'm curious, tell me about a few of the solutions or problems that you've really solved using some of these AI solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the top, the AI solution to me that I absolutely love, Patient Prism. So, shout out to Amol, I guess, when he sees this. Patient Prism is probably the number one solution to where I can go into a DSO and I can show and prove to them with analytics how we can grow and add new patients, new procedures, new solutions. I can make sure that their hygiene team is fully staffed and fully stocked with patients. I can show the analytics to where it's like, hey, maybe your doctor needs to be trained on implantology because you're having 47% of your patients asking if you're doing implants. Maybe it's you take that information, if you don't want to train your general practitioner, maybe you bring in an oral surgeon that comes into the practice twice a month or twice a week or what have you. I'm able to show with them through artificial intelligence the money that they're leaving out on the table because they have the patients that are asking and requesting these certain procedures, but these doctors, they don't know what they don't know. So when I can go back to them with a solution that was built truly for DSOs that says, hey, this is what your patients are asking for. This is what new patients are calling in for. This is what the front staff is saying. Like, it may be a front staff solution. So then it's a training and education solution to the front staff to make sure that they're not turning away business that's going down the street to somewhere else. So, I mean, I would say hands down, the number one AI product that I love to pitch, that I love to sell, that I love to communicate and talk about to these DSOs is really truly the only AI solution that was built for DSOs, and that's Patient Prism.
What sort of key performance indicators are you measuring on there that you've seen be major levers in solving problems here?
Yeah, ultimately it's everyone wants new patients, right? Everybody says, I want to walk into my practice and I want my schedule to be booked. Okay, that's great. And sometimes like your front office, they may be booking patients and they may be, they're doing what you're saying, but they're not booking the right patients. They're not booking the revenue generating patients. They're bringing in that ortho patient that just needs a refinement that's going to take 30 minutes to 45 minutes of your chair time, but there's no production out of that patient. So it's like it's essentially, you're trying to get these clinicians and these DSOs to see the forest through the trees, if you will. Just because you stock full a bunch of patients on the schedule for that day, for that week, for that month, doesn't mean that those are revenue generating patients. Patient Prism provides you those KPIs of showing you where exactly those revenue generating patients are and how that could truly and ultimately help your practice grow.
Yeah. Well, so how do you tie that in with kind of a humanistic perspective? I mean, at the end of the day, the patients, like the goal is, well, I mean, as a business trying to, generate revenue, but then obviously to have these patients leave with better smiles, more confidence, and, the ability to eat and chew or smile with confidence. So how do you kind of tie in AI analytics or some of these KPIs with that human experience, or where do you see that come up in conversations?
Yeah, I think when the clinical team understands and knows truly what the patient is asking for, you're able to tailor that conversation to what the patient is asking. The patients that are calling in, they don't they don't know, they just want a new tooth, or they say my tooth hurts, or they may say, hey, I want Invisalign, and you may not carry Invisalign, but they don't mean they want Invisalign the brand. They just say that they want clear aligner therapy. So when you are able to kind of tailor that down and understand what is it that the patient is asking for, that's how you provide that humanistic approach. Is when you understand what they want, you're able to tailor what they want with what you have to ultimately generate more revenue for your practice.
Sure. And what strategies are you using to bring in these high value patients, or, patients that are producing, that are, taking up time in the chair, but also, generating revenue for the business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'll kind of go to another AI platform, right? And then that's Pearl, right? Pearl is a great AI second opinion type tool where these clinicians, you have the revenue generating, like you have revenue in your chair already. It's a matter of understanding what is it that the patient wants and needs, and being able to articulate that to where they feel comfortable moving forward once they understand the why behind it. A lot of patients, again, they didn't go to dental school. They don't understand why your dental health is so important to your overall health.
Right.
So when you have solutions that could kind of break down that barrier of communication through images, through graphs, through charts, whatever it may be, you're able to take that patient that is already revenue generating in your chair and flip them over into other procedures without having to rely on somebody else coming in or trying to nitpick, who has the money to pay for this procedure, who has the money to pay for that procedure. No, like when we're in the business of making people smile and making people healthy again, right? So when we're able to understand that, that's ultimately where you're able to drive revenue for your practice.
Sure. And what about kind of outreach, acquisition, referrals? Like, what are some strategies that you're seeing working for, even getting these patients into the initial consults?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, clinicians are, GPs, dental offices, they're essentially on every corner, right? You walk down a major corner, major intersection, you're probably going to see at least 3 or 4 GPs on every corner. So who are you competing with, right? And there's definitely there's a lot of business to go around for everybody. But these patients, what they're looking for, they're searching on Google. They're searching on Apple Maps. They're searching on, their smartphones, their tablets, word of mouth. So it's, how are you making sure that you are taking the best quality care of your patient? It's by having AI solutions that are able to articulate what you want or what you're trying to do to that patient and help them understand. It's technologies. Single visit dentistry is huge. Patients, like, long gone are the days, with us going back to us being busy, long gone are the days where I want to get a crown and I want it to be 3 or 4 appointments for me to get my crown on my tooth. I'd much rather take an additional hour off of work, sit there and get a crown on my tooth and go home and be able to eat a steak. Like that's what patients are looking for. So, a lot of these practices, it's time to invest in the technologies that we have, from the intraoral scanners to the CBCTs to 3D printing. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have now that the patients find cool and convenient, but also makes your practice more efficient to be able to provide the services necessary to make your patient come away from there and be like, wow, I am so awesome. I went to Dr. Smith's dental practice today because I was in and out in a couple hours. I got a brand new crown. My tooth feels nice. I can eat again. I'm not in pain. And what are they going to do when they go back to work? They're going to talk about what just happened while they're in the dental chair. They're going to brag about it and think about how cool it is. And that's going to drive more patients. They're going to go on to Google or Yelp or Apple or, you name whatever site you want on there, Facebook, whatever. And they're going to brag about your clinician, not because you asked them to do it, but because you solved their problem. And I mean, that's ultimately how you're going to be able to drive new patient acquisitions into your practice.
So let's dig a little bit into some of this lab tech. So what are some new tools that you're seeing, solve these problems of having to make 4 visits for a crown, or speeding up and making the process more efficient and higher quality?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one product out there right now, when we talk about single visit dentistry and same day dentistry, is probably the Dentsply Sirona, Prime Mill, right? Like, it's the Prime Scan, the Prime Mill. They've got the Prime Print. Literally, like, their whole Prime line, if you will, can do everything that you need that same day without having to send out or create a different visit. VHF, they have an excellent mill. Armand Gerbach's got an awesome mill that they do with pucks. I mean, the technology is, increasing and making dentistry so easy and efficient that, like, literally you can hire some kid out of high school to be able to run some of these programs. The Sprint Ray, the Sprint Ray printers, the Midas printer, where it's got the capsules and it's 3D printing crowns. The technology is evolving so much that there's no excuse for a patient to come back to your practice 2, 3, 4 times to get a crown seated. There's just no excuse for that.
Do you think that these tools are accessible for, early DSOs that only have a couple of practices compared to DSOs that have 100?
100%. I think that we're in a position where we now understand. I mean, there's, it depends on again, going back to what's important to the DSO, right? And what they're looking to do and the procedures that they're looking to do. But for the most part, all these lab printers, all these mills, they're pretty competitive when it comes to a price point. And now that is becoming the standard of care. Like, people, like, they're so well known now that, like, people are essentially going into practices wanting that same day visit. They want to, like, come in and essentially get an implant with a surgical guide in under, an hour. They're wanting to get a crown replaced because, they're chewing on a jawbreaker, and it broke their crown. They want to get a new crown replaced in a couple hours. The technology is so efficient and has evolved so much that, I just a couple of weeks ago, I saw the Dexis Imprevo, the new Dexis Imprevo scanner. And that thing is fast, it's sleek, it's efficient. That is going to be a monster when it comes to doing all on four surgeries. It can scan the edentulous patients. Again, there's just so much that's happening in the dental space when it comes to technology. That's definitely it's a fun time to be in the industry right now, because there's literally not a wrong solution that you can pick and implement into your practice and regret implementing that product or procedure into your practice.
And how do you build trust with the patients that have, potentially have like a low dental IQ? They know nothing of this technology, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, you can, fix this problem that I had in the same day? Like, I mean, is there education that you do? And also, what's the education like for the dentists that are buying these products?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll go to the education for the clinicians, right? Every manufacturer has clinical educators that come in when you buy it, at least through Patterson. Patterson, we have our own support team as well, that when you buy, a specific piece of equipment, we'll come in and we'll train you. We'll train the clinical team and the staff on how to use it and incorporate it. But it all goes back to education. The same goes for these patients, right? These patients, they may not know that it's available, but when you educate them, when you show off the technology of what it's doing, how it works, create promo videos, when they see it in front of their eyes, what you're doing, they're bought in. Their concern goes away, because we live in a day where everything is essentially instant gratification. So, if you've ever bought anything on Amazon and had it come either that day or the next day via Prime, it's no different when it comes to getting a crown now, when it comes to getting an implant now, when it comes to getting an endodontic procedure, when it comes to getting a cavity filled. I mean, the Soleil laser, anesthetic free, lasers when it comes to caries. I mean, there's just so much that we can do in such a shorter amount of time, that I've never heard of a patient and never seen a patient that has complained that they're in the chair shorter than they wanted to, for a less amount of time than they wanted to be there. So, I mean, we have these solutions available to, and it's our place, whether it be the manufacturer, whether it be the distributor, whether it be the clinician. It's our place in the dental industry to educate these patients on what is possible now. And as we educate them, you're going to see full buy-in.
Okay. So then I'm curious, from your perspective, being behind the scenes with this tech and these AI solutions, is what does the future look like? I know with DSOs, you said some of the focus now is less expanding and more on same store growth. But beyond that, looking at DSO strategy and the solutions you're providing, tell me about what you see happening in 5 to 10 years with some of this AI tech, and how DSOs are going to respond to the market and patients' needs.
I mean, I think if you're not investing in AI now, you're going to get left behind. If you're not investing in technology now, you're probably already behind, to be honest with you. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what happens and what comes out within the next 5 to 10 years, because 5 to 10 years ago, we were just dreaming about artificial intelligence, right? Like, oh, that'll be so cool someday. We'd always say someday this is going to happen. Well, we were planning on like 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, and it came within 5 to 10. I mean, it's going to be so exciting to see how technologies improve. Going back to certain technologies when it comes to AI. I mean, you look at Vivardis, for example, and what they're able to do with caries and repairing, these lesions with essentially, a toothpaste. Again, they could probably explain that better than me, but essentially it's, for lack of a better term for anybody listening, it's essentially a toothpaste that you rub on where the carie is, and it repairs that enamel. We never, 10, 15 years ago, we weren't even thinking of that even being a possibility. So to see where we're going to evolve 10, 15 years from now, it's going to be game changing. But I can promise you this, if you're not investing in the AI now, if you're not investing in these technologies now, you're going to get left behind. And when that new product and that new procedure and that new solution comes out, you're not going to know what to do with it, because I mean, it's going to be so far advanced from what you're used to that you'll have no idea how to incorporate that into your practice.
So, what resources or how do you recommend practice owners or dentists stay, on top of this and stay, in the loop for the new technology that's coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in this day and age of with these younger clinicians coming out, that's what's beautiful about it, right? Like we have these clinicians that are now graduating school that have seen these products. These products are now in the school. They've seen it online. They've seen it, on Instagram or Snapchat or X or Facebook. I mean, we live in a digital age where you can no longer bury your head in the sand and say, "Oh, I had no idea this was even a solution." Like any company that launches, I don't care if it's in its infancy today or if it's been around in 100 years, every company that's out there is on social media and is promoting their product. So there's really no excuse for these doctors to say, I had no idea that this was a possibility. So, I think that that's where social media has definitely helped us when it comes to being at least a little bit more knowledgeable when it comes to solutions. Granted, I get it. We have to be a little bit smart when it comes to what's posted on social media and truly what is available and what's real and what's not. I get it. But when we're talking about dentistry, when we're talking about solutions, it's literally at the palm of our hands. So, these associate doctors that are coming out, they know about it. And they're so far more advanced than these clinicians that came out 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago from dental school. They're definitely so much more advanced than they were back then. So, I think dentistry is in a good place. I think as more and more of these doctors come out and the technology advances, it's only going to get better. And I think as we make the connection between your oral health and your overall health of your body and kind of see the correlation between the two and see the marriage between the two, there's going to be more people that are going to see the importance of going to the dentist's office, bare minimum, twice a year to get hygiene checkups, to get checked out. And that's a good spot to be in when you're looking at a clinician or a DSO.
Well, before we wrap up, I'm curious, how do people get in touch with you to help solve problems, and how do they link up with Patterson Dental? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm available. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Joe Slade. You could definitely reach out to me. You could also reach out to your local Patterson branches. I mean, we have essentially territory reps in every state and Canada. Definitely reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to communicate with you, talk to you, show you what's possible, show you what's coming, do demos on your behalf, and then also, look at your products and see outside of what you're spending on merchandise, how else we could help you from whether it be a technology standpoint or whether it be with different solutions that we have partnerships with. Again, it's a great time to reach out to your local Patterson rep and have us come in and do an analysis for you to show you, what we can do and how we can help you grow and how we can help your practice expand.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Joe. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate it.